fight.
Incredible!
Jake Paul being measured up by Joshua for that right hand. Gets clipped. With Big Mo. Oh, man.
Christopher, you ready?
Are you going to keep boxing? Yeah. You really loved it.
Oh, man. Christopher, are you ready for this? Because what we witnessed wasn't just a boxing match. It was a total glitch in the matrix of modern celebrity. You have to wonder if Jake is going to keep boxing after this, or the problem child finally found a problem he couldn't solve with a clever tweet or a stage face-off. You could see it in his eyes the moment Anthony Joshua delivered that brutal reality check. Everything Jake thought he knew about the sweet science got shattered in the most violent way possible. And ringside, Logan Paul couldn't just sit there. He couldn't play the supportive big brother role because the rage was taking over.
Worried family member, and way more like someone watching their entire public image take a massive hit.
Heavyweights have taken that right hand and only took one.
I'm just so proud of him. That was incredible. In my view, that
What followed was messier, louder, and more chaotic than anyone, even the most cynical boxing purists, could have predicted. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill post-fight drama. This was a family crisis exploding in 4K, with millions of people watching the Paul Empire's foundation start to crumble in real time. It was incredible to watch, in a dark sort of way. You see Jake being measured up by Joshua, that right hand hanging over him like the sword of Damocles, and then clipped again and again. Everyone had spent months talking about how this matchup was going to be dangerous and groundbreaking. The hype train for Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua was built like a high-stakes gamble intended to flip the boxing world upside down. But then the opening bell rang, and that gamble turned into the harshest wake-up call imaginable. People didn't truly grasp how catastrophic this was going to get, especially for Logan, who was watching from the front row. This wasn't your typical knockout finish where the loser gets a moral victory for going the distance. This was hype meeting reality at 200 miles per hour. It was ego crashing into legitimate, world-class skill and family loyalty being tested, while the entire world judged every flinch. Logan had spent weeks talking like the result was already written in the stars. Every interview, every social media post, and every ringside appearance was a brick in a wall of delusion. He kept hammering home the same narrative. Anthony Joshua was washed up, he was overrated. He was completely beatable by a kid with a YouTube channel and a dream. Logan was even claiming Joshua was losing rounds before the fight even started. The phrase legacy ender was thrown around with a level of confidence that felt like a guarantee, but it turned out to be nothing more than expensive wishful thinking. At a certain point, it felt like Logan wasn't even supporting his brother anymore. He was betting his own personal credibility on Jake's ability to survive. The whole thing stopped being about the journey and turned into a reputation war. The problem was that Jake spent more time running away from AJ than actually standing toe-to-toe. It's the classic difference between fighting a Bengal tiger and trying to outrun one. The promotional circus reached levels of insanity that the sport had never seen, and while millions tuned in for the build-up, the experts were screaming the same warning. There's a massive, terrifying canyon between influencer boxing and facing a legitimate heavyweight who has shared the ring with world champions. That warning got buried under the noise of the hype machine. Logan kept doubling down. Jake kept huffing his own supply, and the Paul brand just kept getting louder right up until the moment of total collapse. Once the fighting started, that skill gap became a physical presence in the ring. Joshua stayed patient. He was calm, collected, and just waited. Jake, on the other hand, looked rigid and nervous, like a kid who realized he hadn't studied for the final exam. By the middle rounds, the confidence was gone. It was pure survival. Joshua dropped Jake twice in the 5th round, devastating shots that sucked the oxygen right out of the building. Then came the 6th. 2 more crushing knockdowns, making it 4 total. At 1 minute and 31 seconds into the 6th round, it was over. A clean knockout. No arguments, no early stopping complaints, just a heavy, dead silence where all that loudmouth hype used to live. If you're finding this breakdown of the moment the influencer boxing bubble finally burst as fascinating as I am, you really need to be part of the inner circle. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. We're diving deep into the psychology of the fight game, the collapses of the biggest brands in sports, and the moments where reality finally catches up to hype. Don't get left in the dark when the next big legacy
like that,
falls.
or exercise of any kind.
Stay tuned for more of the realest analysis in the game. The statistics from the fight were even more painful than the visual of Jake hitting the canvas. Jake managed to land only 16 punches out of 56 attempts. In the world of professional boxing, that isn't a competitive effort. That's a total shutdown. He was completely outclassed in every metric that matters. And the physical damage? It wasn't just symbolic. Jake walked out of that arena with a double broken jaw that required immediate surgical intervention. This wasn't a close fight that took a bad turn. It was exactly the mismatch that every professional trainer had predicted. And then the cameras found Logan. As Jake was being helped out of the ring, Logan's composure didn't just slip, it disintegrated. All that swagger he'd displayed for months, gone. The commentators picked up on it instantly. This wasn't just big brother concern. It was a toxic mix of anger, embarrassment, and pure, unadulterated panic. Logan started lashing out emotionally, and his fury wasn't even directed at Joshua, the man who had just dismantled his brother. No, the target was Jake. In that moment, Logan didn't look like a worried family member. He looked like a CEO watching his company's stock price hit zero. The whole scene was deeply uncomfortable to witness. Logan had spent weeks running his mouth, and now the world was laughing. His trash talk was being replayed in split screen alongside the footage of Jake being carried away on a stretcher. The Paul brothers weren't the ones driving the narrative anymore. They were trapped inside a story they couldn't control. Behind the scenes, reports suggest things were even worse. Logan was reportedly pacing, shouting, and struggling to contain a rage that seemed to stem from the fact that the Paul experiment had finally hit a wall. Anthony Joshua didn't just knock Jake out. He revealed the absolute limits of what marketing can do when it meets a professional athlete. Social media, as you can imagine, went completely nuclear. Fans were tearing apart every pre-fight prediction, and analysts were dissecting every failed exchange. The professional commentators finally felt empowered to say what they've been thinking all along. Influencer boxing hits a brick wall the second a real heavyweight steps through the ropes. Logan's public breakdown became just as viral as the knockout itself. People were debating whether his reaction was pure emotion or just pure desperation. As he watched the brand he spent years building fall apart in 6 rounds. A few days later, Logan tried to reclaim the narrative, but the tone had shifted. The trash talk was replaced by a more measured, almost diplomatic vibe. He started calling the knockout an inevitable outcome and praised Jake for even lasting 6 rounds.